Okay, so this topic I talked about years ago, and I ran across it the other day, and it seemed appropriate, and as we for our time, and so I thought I would talk about it again, and we'll see if you agree that it's appropriate for our time. Um, Here comes Donna. Um, Hi. So, um, this poem, "The Monkey is Reaching," is a poem that was written in the 18th century by a Zen monk by the name of Hakin Eku, and he was a very prominent Zen monk in Japan at the time. He kind of revived the whole idea of working with koans, and this poem is a little bit of a koan in a way. And so he was quite a dominant figure in Zen movement during that time. And he himself spent many years trying to achieve some kind of awakening. And the story is that he finally awakened in a strange way. He was walking along one day, and a deranged older woman came upon him, and she had a stick, and she started beating him, and she beat him until he was bruised and battered, and thoroughly shocked. And the way that Richard Shankman, who's the one that who wrote this article about his poem, about Eku's poem in the magazine Shambhala Sun years ago, he says that he was shocked into liberation. And I guess that's when I ran across this, my information on this poem a couple of weeks ago. And I think when I ran across it, that's what made me think that it's appropriate for this time. Because it's kind of like maybe we're all getting shocked into liberation by all the things that are happening in the world and in our lives. It kind of feels that way, at least. At least the idea that we're carrying, I think maybe this is my idea, that we carry it around, we continue to carry around to some extent, kind of a false sense of security, that somehow we're on stable ground, that somehow everything's being taken care of, that we're going to be taken care of no matter what. And things keep happening to challenge that. So I think that's kind of the shock that I think at least I've been experiencing in different ways over the past year and a half or more. So the poem, let's read the poem, and I'm going to try to see if I can share it up here on the screen. Here it is. So the poem is called "The Monkey is Reaching." The monkey is reaching for the moon in the water. Until death overtakes him, he'll never give up. If he'd let go the branch and disappear in the deep pool, the whole world would shine with dazzling pureness. So again, the monkey is reaching for the moon in the water. Until death overtakes him, he'll never give up. If he'd let go of the branch and disappear in the deep pool, the whole world would shine with dazzling pureness. So that's the poem. And there's a lot there, and it's a kind of poem that seems fairly, a little bit confusing, but simple, but the more that you look at it, the more you read it, the more it has to say to us. I have an eye appointment. I have new glasses that don't work very well. So one way to look at this is that this monkey can be seen as the self, but another way of understanding it is that the monkey is our ego, this sense of self, this conditioned self, what we believe ourselves to be. And that ego is grasping for this illusion of awakening, of perfection. And at the same time, it's clinging to the illusion of safety, of stability. So there's this conflict of between one grasping and the other, which is a kind of a longing, a wanting for something that may have come through some experience of awakening or moments of presence and contentment, may have come through kind of experiencing that bright faith of listening to someone else's give a talk or reading a book or maybe just noticing a sunset or something. But there's this something that we know but we can't quite grasp, and the fact that it's the monkey, the moon, the reflection of the moon in the water indicates, to my thinking, that it's not quite the real thing that we're striving for. And then our suffering then is created by this struggle between wanting to be safe, wanting to hold on to what we know and what we've got, and this longing, this wanting to get to something different, to something deeper and richer and more consistent, more stable. So we stay in the middle. We're attached and we're longing, and we suffer from that. And sometimes, and like in these times, and like for some of us in different ways, we get that branch ripped out from under us, torn away, and the tendency is then to try to find something else to grasp onto. So in the story that the Richard Shankman talked about, this poet, he got so shocked, and sometimes this happens for people. We get so shocked that we're forced to fall into the water, and then we can see the truth of what is in that brilliance. So that's a possibility in letting go, and that's kind of the reason that letting go is such a prominent part of what we do, because as long as we're grasping anything at all, any kind of attachment, we're gonna suffer. So one of the ways to understand this is that that there's that the Buddha talked about was, he talked about what he called the four parameters, or what are called the four parameters of clinging, the four major things that we tend to hang on to cling to. And those four things are, the first is just sensual pleasures, all the things we enjoy and take pleasure in, whether it's a sunny day or good food or just feeling good with other people, with touch, with sex, with just a good meal, all these wonderful things that bring us joy and bring us happiness, sensual pleasure. And there's nothing wrong with sensual pleasure. But when we get attached to it, when we think that's what we have to be okay, that's what we need to be happy, we continue to be disappointed over and over, because the sensual pleasures are, by their very nature, temporary, and we either have to get more of them or be disappointed, and of course some of them are actually addictive pleasures. We can get addicted to a lot of these things. There's a lot of sensual pleasures that lead us into very destructive life patterns. But again, there's nothing wrong. In fact, it's lovely to enjoy the pleasures of our senses, as long as we don't mistake them for what we need to be happy, and we don't get attached to them, because they're going to end. So that's the sensual pleasures. The second of these parameters of clinging is the clinging to ideas and opinions. So ideas and opinions are, we take very seriously, because they're in some ways they're how we define ourselves. They're very easy to get attached to, because they have the quality of connecting us to sort of a body of people who feel the same way, or we have a sense of righteousness, or of this is how I can construct my life around these ideas and opinions. And again, they are subject to change. Everything is subject to change. So once we've attached ourselves, it's fine to have an idea, it's fine to have an opinion, as long as we keep that door open, that's my idea, that's my opinion at this moment, and it's subject to change. As conditions change, as my understanding changes, as life changes. There was a line I may have said before that I heard or read when I was a young adult, it comes from the Science of Mind religion, and it really struck me at the time, and I still believe it. It's that the mature person reserves final judgment. So if we come up with a belief, a judgment, an idea, to realize that that's what it is at the moment, but it's subject to change, because again, that's a strong form of clinging. And then the third of these ways of clinging is clinging to what's could be seen as rules and vows, or sometimes it's rites and rituals. So we have we make promises, we follow certain rules, we celebrate, or we have certain rituals that are comforting and helpful to us, or connect to things. We may have a ritual we do in meditation. Some people have a process that they do when they meditate, lighting a candle or an incense, sitting in a certain way. and that can bring us home into that meditation posture. It could, and of course, many religions have lots of rituals involved. Again, they can be useful, and there's nothing wrong with them, as long as we don't believe that we have to have them, that we're attached to them, that wisdom and truth or the keys to awakening are dependent on these rules or rites and rituals, because each of these different confinements is just like, you can see them as walls of a prison. They keep us, they restrict our ability to change and to be open and to see the unexpected, or to learn the unexpected as it comes along. And then the fourth of these walls, the most maybe difficult to traverse in a way, is the attachment, clinging to the sense, the belief in the self, the sense of this person, this identity that has this story, that has this history, that has this knowledge, that has this way that people connect to us, and that we connect to other people, the way we're seen in the world, the way we've fulfilled our story, or we're living out our story. Again, this is a sort of, on one level, a necessary thing. We have to find our way. We have to be who we are. But if we're attached to, but we get attached to these and connect this identity, often when we're very young, by the way that other people identify us, as the smart one, or the funny one, or the serious one, or the pretty one, or the stupid one. All these different ways that we become identified. Crafty one. Maybe that works out to some extent, but that's not who we are. And so when we're attached and clinging to that, then we are pushing away anything that disputes that opens up new channels, that may be the path to awakening for us, or increases or opens our understanding. So those are the four parameters of clinging that the Buddha talked about. So when you read that poem, some of the things that related to that came up for me are the thoughts that are generated by, or inspired by this poem, are this idea of yearning or longing for. I was talking with some friends about this the other day. That the difference between a desire that kind of is like an addiction, a desire for something that, a new car, or a desire for the constantly wanting things. A slightly different version of that is this kind of yearning or longing for the truth, for the understanding of what's going on, of being open to the ongoing flow of experience of life itself. So this is you can feel it as a kind of yearning that has this kind of bittersweet quality to it. And with any kind of desire, it's important or helpful to explore it and investigate it and be curious about what's underneath it, and they all have some roots and some deep things. In a way, they all have roots in our wanting to be happy. But this idea of really opening to that yearning or longing with an open heart and an open mind, and being willing to feel whatever comes with that, can be a real path to awakening, I think. And I think the thing that keeps us, and we can talk about, I want to hear your thoughts on this too, but that may keep us attached is really fear. I was hearing something about how fear has this capacity to control our brains, really, because when fear comes up, it's like touching a hot plate or something. We want to get away from it. So fear can combat our ability to relax and explore and be with discomfort, these places that we don't know. It's really the unknown in a way. So it's a conflict that's inherent there. So I am going to, let's see if there's anything else I want to share here before I do this. I have a bunch of questions, and I think I'm going to do those when I'm not recording. So I'm going to read you something here. This is something I just came upon a couple of days ago when I was trying to find a piece of paper, actually, that wasn't written all over. And this one was written all over. It's something that I wrote in a Mountain Stream sponsored writers day, writers workshop, where we just kind of did spontaneous writing. Donna and Elka have been to those, I know, and maybe Adrian. So this one I wrote in response to a prompt that was the right prayer might be. And when I read it, it kind of felt like what we're talking about tonight, what I'm talking about. So the right prayer might be, may I be free. May I be free of the stories, the beliefs that hold me, that keep me imprisoned from myself, from my essence. The right prayer might be, let me be. When I stand on a hillside and I feel the touch of nature on my skin, in all my senses, I can begin to loosen. The supposed to be me releases the hold a bit, and I am flooded with clarity. The right prayer might be, may I join with wind and the flow of comings and goings, the waves of uncertainty and the waves of peace, the joy, and just let it be. The right prayer may be, may I be free of having to do, to prove, so that I can make space to be with whatever is being given in this moment. The right prayer might be, may I let go of whatever is holding me, or I am holding on to in this moment. The right prayer might be, may I expand into the space of what is and dissolve. The right prayer might be just this precious moment. The right prayer might be, let this be enough. Okay, I'm going to stop recording. If I can find the right button here. I'm going to put my little glasses on.